Welcome to enLIGHTen, everyone, where we talk about creative consecration through Christ. We study the scriptures through art, and I am so excited. We're going to be talking about this artwork today. And before we dive in, I wanted to share some wonderful things that have been on my mind. And I hope, can you guys read this? I just got this sweatshirt. The Amazon guy just brought it to me. So I ran down to see it, and I flipped the camera so that you can actually see it, but I don't know if you can read it. I don't know if that worked. I'm just learning how to do this. So I literally just what I wanted you guys to see it, but if not, I can tell you. I can tell you what it says. It says the desire of our souls. Hi, Crystal. Hello,
Hi.
hello. Can you read my sweatshirt? Can you read what it says?
I can read it backwards.
Oh, it is backwards.
It's backwards,
And
but it's still a nice sweatshirt.
I am like, I just got it from the Amazon guy. That just literally, I'm like changing because I was so excited. And I looked up like before, how do I do like a flip camera? So I thought I'm just using a flip camera right now. I guess it's not working, but it's all good.
You still look beautiful, and I like the message.
Oh, you're sweet. Thank you. I was super excited because I found it. Like our family's motto this year is taken from Nephi. It says, "What desirest thou?" And so when I saw this, I was like, this is what I want. I desire Jesus. So anyway, that was kind of the long story about my sweatshirt. And okay, you guys, month of March is so exciting. I have this little martinichka. So it's like a little bracelet that's white and red. And these are very traditional to Bulgaria. So everyone wears them. This is like the official one, what it's supposed to look like. I kind of made mine to look like a bracelet because it's easier to carry it. But usually with pin this like into your clothes. So everyone in Bulgaria wears these. I sent one to my missionary in Denmark. Ian's wearing one at BYU. And it's just so fun, you know. They're Peugeot and Panda. So these are these two little guys. And it symbolizes health and happiness. So your cheeks are rosy. That's kind of the idea, you know, of the red, and the white is health and joy in your heart. But I always like to think of Jesus, and it happens to be so close to Easter. And in preparation for Easter, I love to think that his blood will cleanse us and we will be pure as white as snow, and his atonement. So to me, they're like an extra special symbol to remind me so much of Jesus and his atonement coming into our lives. And it's so much fun. Okay, before we dive in, I also wanted to let everybody know, you guys, if you want to get my book before Easter, this whole weekend, this weekend is the time to order it. I'm traveling next week, so it's going to be too crazy to try to ship everything. So I've been working hard to get all of them sent out to you so you have it on time for Christmas.
Easter.
Easter! I can't think. But it's so good. If you don't get it for Easter, it's still a beautiful book, and it's Jesus. So don't worry. You can get it after, and it's just as fun. And the last little housekeeping thing I wanted to talk about was the tip-ins. So I will have the advanced copy from the printers next week. So I will show you, hopefully for enLIGHTen, I'll have them to show you guys what they turned out. It's my fault they're delayed because I wanted to put few other images into the tip-ins, which I thought were so beautiful. I've been working with some friends in New Zealand that are just awesome. And so they were on time. I just wasn't on time creating them on time. So it's all my fault. You can blame me.
But it's still exciting.
So, oh my gosh. But yes, as soon as they get here, so I think last week of March, I'm just going to be nonstop doing this. I'm dropping everything and shipping them all out because I can't wait for you guys to have them. Okay, Crystal, I can't wait to be with you today and with everyone. You guys, we're gonna have so much fun. I am so excited you picked this piece, Crystal, darling. And, and tell everyone. I know people have seen you here before, but please tell tell people about you. Tell them who you are so they get to know you.
Yeah. So I'm Crystal Nelson. I grew up in Alabama, so my nickname is Bama. But I've lived here in Utah for the last 25 years. I served a mission in Brazil and fell in love with the people down there. I'm a mother of 5. My oldest is on a mission right now. He's in Paris, France, and he's loving it. He feels like he's home. And then I have 4 girls, and they range from age 16 down to 11 with a set of twins in there. And so I have 4 girls, 5 years apart, which makes it really fun right now. But no, they're really fun. And then I own a gymnastics gym, and my passion is gymnastics. I love coaching. I love running the gym, getting to know people most of the time. I've always been a social person, but sometimes running a gym, I prefer to stay back a little bit, and I'm like, okay, too many people, but it's really fun. I love to be able to share my testimony, and so being here with you it really is a dream, just getting to be able to share my love and my passion of the gospel of Jesus Christ and of Jesus Christ himself.
Oh, you are amazing. I'm so thrilled. I can't wait to hear what you're going to share. Seriously. And this is one of Crystal's daughters.
Yep.
You know, Aubrey, we worked on this piece together. She was my model. Look at this. Look at this. Like, I have to tell you, this is probably one of my most favorite pieces I've ever done.
Yeah.
I just can't not look at it and just feel desire to do good, despite if there's darkness and hardship. I'm just like, oh, I just want to do good. So thank you.
I mean, that photo, it's on, I have it like all throughout my house, in all sorts of different places. But I use it for everything. And it brings me so much hope every time I look at it. And it just reminds me of how good God is every time. I mean, I just see his grace in it, and I see his power. And it brought things to life. Your art definitely brings the gospel to life for me in ways that I'm like, oh, that's what he meant by that.
Oh, you're sweet. I just love that it's your daughter that's in it too. I'm like, this is so fun.
I love that too. It does make it even closer to my heart.
Yes. Oh, she is such a sweetheart, such a darling, darling girl. Okay, so tell us what made you choose a vision of victory. This is what we're going to be talking about, and we have 2 amazing talks that you also thought about to bring in with this piece. So I'm just going to put it up here.
No, that's perfect. So I think you created it about 2 years ago, maybe not quite that long at the time. So I started working in Bountiful Temple about 2 years ago. And I just remember when you created this piece and I saw it, I was in the temple afterwards the next week. And I was greeting patrons as they left, and just, hoping that they had a good day, thanking them for coming to the temple. And this picture just kept playing in my mind. And I wanted every time they left to say, go forth with power. You got this. You now have been taught what to do. Now you can go forth. And so over the last few years, as I've been in the temple and I've been learning, the power that we receive in the temple, to me, is just described in this picture. I know that my kids kind of looked at it last night because I was going through it with them, and they were like, why did you pick this picture, Mom? But I see so much power, and I see hope that we can be delivered and that we have the ability to overcome the world through this photo, that through our covenants, we can be bound with Christ, and that we can be given every inch of protection and strength that we need to be able to fight and win in these last days.
Oh, I love that you feel that, because this was actually a commission piece. I had this cute family reach out to me. In fact, I write in the story, this is the Awake book, you guys, for
I
Those of
had
you
that
that
one.
are wondering, what am I holding? But it's the Awake book, and it was so dear and special to me. You know, we had a wonderful phone call, and the story in here so touching about exactly like what you're saying, Crystal. And it's so amazing. He had this cute dad and mom reached out to me, and their daughter was just really, really struggling. She was going through, I mean, to quote him, because I had him write, this is all his writing of his story in here. And I'll put that on the story as well, you guys, so you can read exactly what he says. But you know, he's saying since ninth grade, our daughter has been faced with incredible heartbreak and trials, and just how Satan's raging a personal war against her. And they were having like this conversation one-on-one before they went to bed. And this is what his like daughter asked him. She said, Dad, what do you see as my potential? And oh my gosh, like it's so sweet. Like, what do you think? Who do you think I am? Like, what do you see in me? And oh, that just touched me so much. Like, um, because we can all ask this same question to our Heavenly Father. You know, we can always be asking, you know, what is my potential, God? You know, what do you see in me? And I love how this sweet daughter is asking her earthly father the exact same question. And then he's like, my heart shattered. I silently pleaded with Father in heaven for anything I could offer her. And then he had this like vision. I'm not kidding. He knew everything. He had this like vision that came to him. And he's like, this is what I saw. I saw it's going to be so hard. I saw this battlefield, like literally battlefield, because it
Mm-hmm.
is. It is. We're in the battlefield every single day. And he's like, I saw some people had fallen, you know, in the distance the city was burning, and clouds were looming around, and you were standing in the midst of it. You were right there. And he said, beyond the pain and exhaustion, her eyes shone with conviction and victory as she clenched a sword glowing with spiritual power. And my favorite part is then standing beside her with his hand on her shoulder was the Savior. He was there in the battle with her, giving her strength and fighting for her.
Oh,
And
I have so much chills right now just as you say that, because oh, it's what he does for all of us.
yes, yeah, exactly. That's exactly why I'm like, can I please share that?
Yeah.
Because sometimes people want it just for them. They're like, no, I want an original. I want this just to be in my house only, you know? And I was like, please, I feel like we need this. We need it. Our youth needs it, you know? It's just such an amazing reminder who is standing right beside us,
Yeah.
you know, and who is strengthening us. And yeah, so I honestly don't take any credit really, because he had it all in his mind. Her dad was so prepared. He had everything that was wanted to be portrayed, that he really wanted to say. And I love how he said that she was victorious. I just thought that was such an amazing statement. He said, I then told her that I saw a powerful and strong young woman who has the Savior by her side. And although the enemy is waging a war for her soul, she will be victorious. And just that promise. And, you know, honestly, he said that had such a big impact. She has it like in her bedroom, and they have it in their house as well. And just to wake up and think, I'm gonna visually have this reminder, right? I'm fighting. I'm gonna get out on the battlefield, but I'm not alone.
Right.
You know,
Oh,
it was just so sweet
yeah.
that,
I remember you telling this story and it touched me so much. And just there's so much power in it. And even though he maybe had the vision, you were able to put it to life for him. And I'm grateful that they were willing to share it, because it's something I've needed and I've been able to see it coming about in my life and in my children's life.
yeah, Yeah, I know. Like, I was thinking so much of that talk by President Uchtdorf too. Like, I mean, of course, we think we're going to talk about one
Yeah,
talk or two, but there's like
there's
all these
always
talks in
multiple.
there. But that, like, Jesus Christ is your strength.
Yes.
Like, Jesus Christ is a strength for you. Jesus Christ is a strength for parents. It is so sweet that we have that, that we have that, we can relate to that, and like each one of us on that same way to really draw upon his strength. And I put the quote also, I believe the Savior Jesus Christ would want you to see, feel, and know that he is your strength. I think that's so, so powerful.
I like
And
that you include all those senses.
yes.
That because we need that sometimes. Sometimes just one isn't enough as we feel overwhelmed. We need more. And in this sense, yeah, he's giving more.
And don't you love that, like, our we can get that from the
Yeah.
temple. Like, we can feel him, we can know that he is, we can see him, with our spiritual eyes. It's
Right.
so fascinating. Like, I can't even describe it with words, but I know how I feel when I leave the temple.
Yeah. So just as you were saying that, I was thinking about it this morning. So I deal with chronic illness. And one of the things I deal with is chronic fatigue syndrome. And so my body is so exhausted all the time. And no matter what I do, I just can't get my energies up. And so, but when I go to the temple and I work a 5-hour shift, it's the only time I feel fine. I'm not, I mean, sometimes you're tired because we're getting up at 5 in the morning, but for the most part, when I am there, it's the only time in my life I actually feel healthy and normal again. And so I love my time there because I feel like I can actually fulfill what God needs me to do, where then I come home and I'm back in my mortal weak state. And I struggle sometimes, and I just feel like I can't do all that he's asking me to do because I'm physically limited. And so being in the temple, I mean, there is not only the physical power, but there's the spiritual and the mental power that comes. And it's what we need. It's the only way that we can learn how to see him with our spiritual eyes.
Oh my gosh, I had, it's funny, we're sending goosebumps to each other. I just had them as you were talking. I'm like, wow, it's like, it is, you can feel his power there. It is so incredibly amazing. And I loved how the prophet was saying how we can be recipients of the same blessings that Jacob, Isaac, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob have also had. And that can easily be one of those, to do God's work. That
Yes.
is, that you are blessed in that moment to have that physical, spiritual, mental health to be able to perform his work. And outside or inside or outside of the temple, he gives us that capacity. And I can relate too, in the sense that I have a hard time fasting sometimes. And this, I've tried actually fasting when I am at the temple, like and I don't even know I'm fasting.
Yeah.
Like, so I can relate in
Right.
a little tiny bit to you in that sense. But I'm like, wow, if I could just fast every time, if it could, I'll just, like, if that wasn't a Sunday and I was in I would have no problem with fasting. But it's just kind of amazing because your mind and your body
Yeah.
and your heart is so centered on Jesus Christ, and you're like, oh, I feel you
Right.
here. I know you I can do this impossible thing, right? Like, it's like, wow, it's so tangible. His power is so tangible there. And those promises that we are given
Yeah.
are so real.
It's amazing. So I wanted to share. Have you seen the movie Percy Jackson, the original one, the first one?
I haven't, but my daughter read the series,
Okay,
so I know some of the
so
stories.
I'm a big movie person. I love movies.
Yeah.
And my dad, as a little girl, he taught us to look for gospel principles in movies. So it's one of those things that as we watch movies, we find these gospel principles. And so every time I share with the youth about the power of scriptures, I share this clip from Percy Jackson. And it's where he goes to the demigod camp and he's learning the powers that he has from who he is, because he never knew who he was growing up, and then all of a sudden he finds out who his dad is, and he's starting to learn how to use the powers. And so they have this scene where he's just getting completely beat up, and he's down on the ground. Everyone thinks that, you know, he's finished with, and all of a sudden he hears a voice that says, "Go to the water," because his dad is the god of the water. I can't think of his name right now, but and so anyway, so he like just uses all of his strength to get over to the water, and as he puts his hand in the water, he starts receiving power. His body's physically healed. He receives the capacity to be able to get up, and he wins the battle. And so every time I talk about the scriptures to the youth, that's the clip I use. I'm like, this is what the scriptures do for us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then in preparing for this and looking at this photo, I was like, this is what the temple does for us. But it's not just a one-time thing like in the movie where he's instantly healed. Ours is over time. It's the continually going and learning. What does it mean to be a child of God? What does that bring for us? What does, you know, what all are we given because we are sons and daughters of God? And then as we learn that, and as we sit and we listen and we develop the capacity to see his power in our life, we start developing more power, and we start being able to build the shields of righteousness and the sword of righteousness, and we're being able to use it in ways we never could use it before.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love, you know, this reminds me of what the prophet said in the talk that we're discussing today. Is like, he's like, if you don't love the temple yet, go more, not less.
But it's true, because the first times you do go through, you're like, okay. And especially, you know, I went through 25 years ago. I was just like, I had always loved the temple. I loved being there for baptisms. And then going in to receive my other covenants, I was like, okay, that was different. You know, that there was some really cool parts, but it was also different, a little bit scary for me, I would say. But then I wanted to learn more. And so I continued, and I went to where now it's just like, I don't know how to not go without the temple in my life. If I miss a week, I'm just like, I've had a horrible week. I need to get back to the temple. But it's a development. And yeah, and President Nelson says that. And so does Brother Wweat. He says it's not a one-time thing. It's over time. It's a development. And we have to go more and more and more. And we have to go with, and I think President Nelson says that we have to go with the open heart. We have to want to learn. We have to be able to be open and seeking that learning.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, seeking mind. I thought that was so amazing. Because, like, I remember vividly, I had little kids, and my husband was an ordinance worker, and we homeschooled all our kids, and I was so overwhelmed every Saturday that he would go to the temple. I was like, no, I need you here. You know, I was so like selfish, you know, like, please, it's Saturday. Why do you? And he would come and he's like, oh, it was so wonderful. He's like, it was so beautiful. And he would share all these amazing spiritual experiences he had. And I'm like thinking, oh, great. I wish I felt that. Honestly, it was a time in my life. I mean, I love the temple. I'd go once in a blue moon because life was changing diapers and you know, teaching is just like nonstop of that. And it's funny because I could have made time. I really could have made more time. But I like that it's a work of progression. Like, we just keep striving, keep wanting him, and it just is such a wonderful thing that it's not a one time, but God's like, I want you here, and come with those open eyes. And it's funny, just through the years, especially these last like 6-7 years, I'm like you, I'm like, can I just, it's not enough. Like, I was blind before, honestly. I mean, I'd still go, but honest, I have to like confess, like my mind wasn't open in the
Mm-hmm.
same way. Like the scriptures didn't, I just did it because I knew it's important, I knew it's true, and I knew it's awesome and very essential to our relationship with God, but not to this point now that I can, like you said, like you feel it when a
Right.
week passes by and like we're not having the chance to go. I'm like, I know we didn't go to the temple, and I'm like, we're going no matter what next week. You know, we're gonna make that top priority. But it's interesting how he's so patient with us.
Right.
He's so patient in those moments when we just can't make it quite there, and we, even if we do, our hearts are not like fully open. And it's, I just love, it's a continual, like
Mm-hmm.
you said, and our prophet is telling us, you know, it's really a continual process. And how great our God is, because he is giving us that chance over and over and over again. And I liked what Raquel said. I'm going to go back a little bit here just to read what she said, because I thought it was so great. She said, I love how this depicts the scene of a world destroyed, but Jesus stands beside us and says, together we got this. Our burdens may not be taken, but with Jesus, we can face any upheaval. And that is such a beautiful comment. I love that. That because we're with him, we can stand strong, and he is our sure foundation, right?
Yeah.
We won't be moved because he is the one we hold on to. Oh, thank you so much for saying that. That's really,
Yeah,
really
no,
cool.
that was beautiful. That actually goes on with what President Nelson said. He said, if you and I are to withstand the forthcoming perils and pressures, it is imperative that we each have a firm spiritual foundation built upon the rock of our Redeemer, Jesus Christ. And so it is true. I mean, it's the only way we won't be be lost in this world or feel destroyed. And he doesn't always take away our burdens because he knows we can face them. He knows that as we build that connection and we bind ourselves to him, we can face it without it destroying us.
Yes, yes, that's such a perfect quote to go with it. And I love what Peggy's saying. I'm just going to put this here and read her words because it goes so well. She said, I love the power of the sword, symbolizing the war against Satan, the gospel of Christ, truth covenants that willed upon us, that willed
Willpower.
us power. It also has the shape of a cross, that we must take up our cross and follow him.
Mm.
Yes. That's so, wow, I never thought of that. Thank you. I
Yeah,
love
that's a
that.
good reminder too. I hadn't
Yes.
thought of the sword as the cross, but it's true. We have to. Yeah, we have to understand what Christ has done for us, and how powerful his atonement in saving us is, and how we need to use it in our own life.
And don't you think this actually goes so well with like our Come Follow Me study this week? Like I was just thinking so much. I'm like, wow, you were so inspired to like
It,
pick this piece
well,
with everything we're studying right now.
and what's so funny is we picked it back in like October of last year. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And as I was listening, as I was in Sunday school last week and I'm studying this week, I'm just like, holy cow, God is so good.
Yeah.
Because I felt so strongly about this piece, and I messaged you and was like, I feel really strongly I need to do this piece. And the timing just worked out exactly when it was supposed to be. And then, oh, well, let me add too. And then yesterday with the church buying the Kirkland Temple,
Yes.
um, and I had been, as I have been pondering for the last couple of months on, what is it that I need to share? The DNC 109 is what kept coming. And as I was in the temple, I just kept studying it. And it's the Kirkland dedication and the power that Joseph Smith asked to come upon us and upon the earth because of temples. It just goes hand in hand with this. And so to get that news yesterday, I just was like, wow, God is so good in his timing and everything, because it's Joseph Smith recognized the power that we need. he recognized the power that the temples could bring in our lives, and how God could teach us in a way that, you know, sometimes it takes us, like you were saying, you've gone to the temple your whole life, but it's, you know, sometimes you didn't always understand why. It was the same for me. I've always gone, but it hasn't been till these last few years where my eyes have been open, and I still have so much to learn, but I'm able to see the temple in such new ways. And I feel like I go now, not just for me. I go in order to help others, and um, to learn what Christ needs, not just going to say, hey, I need this answer in my life, so I'm coming to the temple to receive it. There's a difference in why I go these days, which has also changed the way I've been able to learn at the temple.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And how you're saying, you know, that you've dedicated that time to him. I think that's just making that like such a big priority in our lives, like the highest priority, right?
Yeah.
That like everything else will work out, like, because, or fall out of our lives, right? Because we are centering, we're choosing to go there
Mm-hmm.
and really be with him in that, in those moments. And oh my gosh, so many wonderful comments here. And I know it made me think so much of the, like, Assyria trying to take over Jerusalem, and
Yeah.
how, okay, I read this. You know, I teach seminary, so I always have to like learn so much I don't know,
I
but
love
thank
it.
goodness,
No, keep doing it.
thank goodness I have this book, you guys. I don't know, maybe some of you have read this. It's called Isaiah for Airheads by John Bidaway. But this book has saved me.
I need
John,
to
by
get
the
that book
way,
then.
thank you. And I just love, there's a story in it that he talks about, I think it was Gerald Lund, and how he is, just how sometimes we feel like Satan's winning in everywhere around us. Like, you know, like he is just overtaking city after city after city after city, and we're just next, kind of on the horizon to be taken over. And yet we see in this story that Jerusalem stands still, that to the very last moment. I mean, he's saying in the book that like they could almost hear them chanting in the distance, so numerous army coming to get them. And how amazing God is, that sometimes he waits till like the last minute to do that amazing miracle and in our lives. But how essential is just for us to be strong and to know that we're on his team, where he is, you know, that he's, I will protect you, just trust me, like don't fear. And how much like freedom and strength that gives us, even if the world is screaming like in our face, that we can hear all those things, you know, we still know whose we are, and we know that our life matters, that whatever we're gonna do, like our little actions, that's how we fight back, that's how we share more light. It's our gifts, it's consecrating our hearts and our souls, like Anthony Wweat, right? He's like, the law of consecration. I just love when he talks about that. That is such a beautiful, and I love that we can talk about the beautiful laws that are in the temple and share that. Okay, I'm trying to find this, you
And
guys. But
he goes into even more detail in his books about the temple, and I love it.
yes,
He explains it in such a way that my brain goes, yes, okay, now I can better get this. So yeah, keep going with it.
yeah, I
It's
love these
beautiful.
two cute little books. I've given them to my kids,
I did the
friends that are
same.
going on missions, missionaries that serve here. I'm like, you got to read this.
Yep.
It will like light up a fire in you. That's so powerful. But something that it really touched me, he said that, talking about the law of consecration, it's the highest pinnacle covenant to consecrate our entire lives to God, dedicating and making holy our time, talents, and means to do his will and build up his kingdom. And that's always like something so dear to my heart. Again, this whole idea, the desires of our soul. What desirest thou, right? What is that? the thing that drives us, that gets us out of bed every morning? What is the thing that's like most dear and precious to our souls and to our hearts? And consecrating every effort that we make, right? I love how the prophet's like, anything you do to gather Israel on this side or the other side of the veil is part of that great work. It's so great that no one gets left out. We can all do even a tiny little bit each day, but we can be part of that great work. It's just,
it's true. As you were talking just a minute ago before going into that, it made me think. So owning a business has not been easy, and it definitely adds to my chronic fatigue syndrome. But it's funny. So I just hired a general manager who's going to run the gym for me for the next little bit while we go help Avery get some more help with her illness that she's struggling with. And the other day I called her up and I just said, remember that it's God's gym. It's not our gym. And there's going to be days that you feel like everything's falling apart, because that happens, but God will always come through. He may wait till the last minute sometimes because he's teaching us that we can do all things with him, but he will always come through. And if you can remember that one little fact, you'll be fine running the gym and it won't be as stressful. But it's, the battle's there, it's raging on. God's always with us, but sometimes he does make it, I'm not going to say we fight alone, because we never fight alone, but sometimes he allows us to feel like we're fighting alone to teach us and to help us grow stronger and to build us. But then he's always there. And so to have those moments going, thank you for being there with me throughout the thing. Thank you for teaching me how to fight this battle and for helping me succeed in it. And it applies into all of our lives and into all aspects of our lives. I think that's the biggest thing for me owning the business, is learning how that the gospel plays into everything in my life. It's not just Sundays. It's not just in my home. It is in everything. And I try to use the gospel principles in running my business and to be able to try to move forward that way.
Oh my gosh, I love that. It's not just on Sunday that we let God to be part of our life, but every part of our life he wants to be part of, right? Every moment, every time, every day. And as you're talking, like, I kept thinking of Joseph of Egypt. Sometimes we're stuck in that pit, just like he didn't know what's gonna happen next. He's like, I'm done. I mean, I think he had hope, but I mean, I'm sure it was so hard. He's like, what? This is what I deserve? To be thrown in a pit by my brothers? It's like, I think we feel that way sometimes. We're in those moments where it's like, wait a minute, what happened? Like, why is this happening right now to me? And I love his story, honestly. Like, his life is again, and then he goes to be in prison for a few years. I mean, it's
doing what was right.
Yes, exactly. Right. It's like, holy cow. But it is so powerful that he's the one that brought the children of Israel. He's the one that saved them, and we have that strength. If we stay strong and always trust God, we can be instrumental in helping others in our own lives, in like even when it's so crazy hard, to not let go, because we are built on that foundation. I have this little foundation. I just wanted to bring this picture just because we're talking about a foundation, and I was like, I just actually opened back to it. I was trying to find the one that you picked, but this came up right now, and I think it's so neat, like, to be digging deeper, to build up that foundation. And I think that's what, before, when I had little kids and trying to I wasn't really digging deeper when I was going to the temple. I just would be like, oh, it's great, done. Okay, what's next? And I still was happier. I know I was, because I went, but like when our prophet's saying to have your go with an open mind, like seeking mind, that's such a good word. Like, you seek Not
Right.
just look and hope and well, hope also is very important. Look is also very important, but seeking is more than just wanting something. It's wanting something exceedingly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I oftentimes I wish I could go in there with a journal so I can write
Oh,
down all of the things I feel, because I'm like, wait, and this word and that. I want to ponder so much more after,
oh,
and this
I
is
get
such
that
a,
100%.
I know.
Because I'll sit in the celestial room and even just working, things will come that I'm like, oh, that is amazing. Then I get home to try to write it out, and I can't always write it out the same way that I did. But when the times I need it, it does come back.
Mhm.
And because that's how the Spirit works. And He brings to pass, and He helps us remember those truths when we need them.
Yes, and I love what Susan actually said here. I think this is such a good comment with exactly what we are talking about. Um, because I actually asked one of the cute workers at the top one, I said, can I promise it's gonna be a little tiny notebook with a little tiny library sized pencil. Can I just like put it in my pocket so I can write? I promise it would just be tiny little, you wouldn't even know I have this. He's like, no, because you know why? I'm like, why? He's like, well, God wants you to ponder one thing at a
Yeah.
time and to really ponder, and he wants you to come back again. And I was like, wow, okay, that was like the best answer I could have, because I would have written volumes, and who knows if I would have really comprehended them
Right.
all, even after doing that. But, and I love what Susan's saying here. Isn't this so cute? She said, Michael Wilcox. I love Michael. He was my institute teacher at U of U years ago. So I still remember his classes and the things he taught. What a great, great man. Okay, so he had a talk about the temple. He compared it to 3rd Nephi, where the people just don't understand all Christ is telling them, but they're wanting more. And he tells them to go home. And Susan
Mm-hmm.
is saying, and I ponder what was taught and come back the next day. It's a place of learning, more added upon each time. Oh my gosh, that is
Yeah.
so true. Oh my gosh, it motivates you to, as you're leaving the temple, to want to come back
Mm-hmm.
again.
Yeah.
It's like,
I know. I'm writing all these notes down because these are good notes.
and I love the thought. I keep thinking, well, why are we gathering Israel? Why is this the greatest work that's happening on the earth right now? Because obviously our prophet is saying this to the youth first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
He told them that, and now everyone, we are all part of this most amazing work that's happening on the earth. He said there's nothing greater going on right now. And I just kept, I got my answer, which I think it's so beautiful. He says it right there when he says, ponder 3 things. And I love that he said ponder. I love our prophet. This is so sweet. He's
Mm-hmm.
like, ponder these, let them like sink into your soul. And the first one he talked, we shared that one, right? Restoration is a process, not an event, and will continue until the Lord comes. But here was my answer to why are we doing this gathering of Israel? Why is it so essential? And the covenant, the Abrahamic covenant, being part of it, basking in those blessings and sharing them with the world. But this is what he said. So point number 2 that he was saying to ponder was like, the ultimate objective of the gathering of Israel is to bring the blessings of the temple to God's faithful children. Wow. I mean, that's like, all the work that goes together. And ultimately, that is the ultimate objective. So, like, the highest, right, objective of that is so, and no wonder there's temples all over the world. No
Right.
wonder there's such huge emphasis. And no wonder our souls have been reawakened in
Mm-hmm.
these latter days to yearn for the temple and to just want to find Jesus there. And I love that he's everywhere. The symbols of Jesus Christ are all over the temple, both physically and spiritually. And it's amazing. It is his house. I
Right.
love that the prophet refers to the temple as the house of the Lord. I love that it says it on every temple.
Mm-hmm.
And let's go to Jesus's house. We're going to go in there take our shoes off and feel him
Right.
and be fed, right? Like be fed
Be
by
fed
him.
by him. I like that. We're fed in all ways.
And the third thing, he's also, I thought it was so sweet, he's like, so not only that you want to go to the temple, I think the third thing to ponder is so tied up to the second one. He's like, as we seek how to accomplish that objective, how to bring people to the temple to receive the blessings of God, he's like, let the Lord reveals more insights. The ongoing restoration needs ongoing revelation. Oh, how great our God is. He's like, if you want me, if you're seeking me, I am going to show up. We have our agency. He's not like commending us, like,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't do this, you will, da 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 da. You know, he's like, you choose. You choose me. I'll pour out my love and blessings
Yeah.
upon you. Wow. Wow.
So as you're talking, I'm going to go back to D&C 109 for a minute. And as Joseph Smith, and each one of us receives revelation in our own way, right? In the ways that our minds can understand, our minds and hearts. And that's why revelation is so powerful, because he speaks individually to each of us. And it will come in the way that we need it, not maybe in the way that someone else needs it, but in the way that we need it. And so as I was studying 109 the other day in the temple, it just, I don't know, it came in a way for me that my mind could understand that here was Joseph Smith in the I can't say that word, prayer, saying, here's the blessings that we want from you, God. I know that through this house we can receive these blessings. So here's the blessings that we want. And he says that the glory may rest upon thy people, that we may feel thy power, that we may be taught words of wisdom out of the best books, and that they may seek learning even by study and also by faith, that they may grow up in thee and receive a fullness of the Holy Ghost. And that alone, I'm just like, that is what the temple does for us. It brings that fullness. It puts Christ's shoulder on our, puts Christ's hand on our shoulder every time, like that photo shows. And then he continues and says that we can be armed with thy power, and that thy name be upon them, that thy glory be round about them, and thy angels have charge over them, that they may bear exceedingly great and glorious tidings in truth unto all the ends of the earth, that they may know that this is thy work, and that thou hast put forth thy hand to fulfill that which thou hast spoken by the mouths of the prophets concerning the last days, that no weapon will be formed against them shall prosper, that he who diggeth a pit for them shall fall into that same pit, that no combination of wickedness shall have power to rise up and prevail over thy people, upon whom thy name shall be put on this house, that thou wilt fight for thy people as thou did in the days of old. And he just continues. This whole section is just these amazing blessings. And so once again, talking about Revelation. So when 2020 happened and everything shut down, I was driving home one day and I looked up and I can see the Bountiful Temple as I drive home, and I saw it and my heart yearned. And all of a sudden I just was overcome with this sadness of how in the world can these temples be closed, and we need them. And in that moment, I had this thought of, and now you wonder why we had an earthquake. Because the temple, so this is not doctrine at all, but this was my revelation for me. Because the temple's closed. And then, the next week, Salt Lake had a pretty decent sized earthquake. And he's like, not only are you yearning, but my land is yearning for the power that comes from the temple. And the earth was sad because all of a sudden, for the first time since the restorations, all the temples were, closed down. And it was such a sweet moment for me to recognize not only are we given the spiritual power, but the earth is given power. We as humans are given the power, which then helps the earth become and be able to rise up to the celestial state that it wants to be in too. And so it's just this thing, but it was such a blessing for me. And then as I study what Joseph Smith, he understood the power that we needed on this earth. And so it just, the power of the temple, not only for ourselves, but for the world and for everyone in the world, is just, it's amazing and it's beautiful. And the Lord is so good to give us that power. Even when we are going, not understanding things, we're just going, he still gives us the power. He still even though we may not recognize it and see it or understand it, it's there. Sorry, I'm going to jump back into Brother Sweat's talk when he talks about the paintings, and he's teaching the primary children. And because he's, the temple is to teach us the principles and to teach us how to be able to see the power of God in our lives. And so as the kids started, he started one principle at a time. And initially they're going, this isn't going to work out. Like, this isn't. And I feel like that's us in the temple. Sometimes we go and we're like, I don't see how this is teaching me what I'm supposed to be learning, right? But as we continue and we go line upon line, these primary children were all able to paint this picture of Christ, and they never painted before, right? It's the same for us as we follow the principles, as we go and learn more about our covenants, and we learn line upon line. We're given the understanding, and all of a sudden our eyes will open one day to be able to see what God's creating in us, to be able to return back to him. And it just, yeah. So I don't know, the picture that you have just brings so many spiritual powers into my life. And it just makes me see how great God is of all the places we can find that spiritual capacity, not only in the temple, but all the little things he asks us to do is bringing us the spiritual capacity. Because that's at the beginning of Brother Sweat's talk. He says, what he meant was that we needed endowment of spiritual power, or a heavenly gift of divine knowledge, experience, capacity, and ability. That's how he and the scriptures often describe endowment, as a heavenly bestowal of spiritual power. And so, and God's teaching us in the temple how to see and recognize and receive his spiritual power in our lives. Just like in this picture, this dad had this vision of, how do I help my daughter see who she is? She is full of spiritual power because God and Christ are giving it to her if we just follow the principles that he's outlined for us.
Wow, that's so much truth, so much goodness. And I love that you talked about DMC 109, because we were at the Las Vegas temple, and this cute ordinance worker came, and he opened up, and I've read 109 before, but like, this was so sweet. And I never was touched by this verse with so much power. And it was 109:22. And you just read that.
Yeah.
But it was so amazing. And it's incredible that we're talking about the Kirtland Temple. And I love where he actually received this, this is the dedication of the Kirtland Temple, the 109. I mean, there's no coincidences, right? By divine design, we get to talk about this right now, which I think is so amazing. And I loved all the comments on here. People were just saying they had to run out. Peggy was commenting here and saying, that they had to leave everything behind, right? I mean, there were so many sacrifices for these saints, and yet they knew how essential, this temple is. And now to have this temple back, like, I can't wait to actually go and tour the temple and see the Kirtland Temple again. And the sealing power, wasn't it President Hinckley that said, even if nothing else, there were so many heartaches, so many hard things that came out of the persecution of the saints, and so many hardships and everything. But he said it was so worth it because of that sealing power that was restored in that temple. And that is what's gonna keep going, and what has continued to keep binding us together as families into our God. And it's so beautiful and so deeply profound. I love the promise that Joseph Smith, you know, this is saying in the dedicatory prayer here is like, that we may be armed with his power, his name may be upon us, and glory, his glory may be round about us, and his angels, they will have charge over us. And that's what that cute ordinance worker read to us. He's like, you know, no matter what you do here, no matter, you know, we didn't have that much time. So we were kind of in and out, and, you know, we were a little frustrated that was so little time. And yet he's like, don't worry, you came, and that same power, all these promises that you're going to be able to be charged with the light of Christ, and the angels will be around. Don't worry, you are going to have that with you. You know, and I love also how the prophet's saying, if you can make it to the temple, if you can't physically be there because of illness or circumstance or whatever may be going on in your life, he said, rehearse. This is what he said, which I thought it was so sweet. Rehearse in your mind the covenants you have made, which made me think a little bit.
Yeah, I love that he just laid that out. Just listen, I know that sometimes you can't make it to the temple. So here's what you can do that brings the temple to you.
Yes.
And that was such a clarity of mind for me that day he said it. And it like hit me of going, oh, yeah, you're right. I can do that. That is something I can do.
Yes, there's always hope, right? Even during COVID, he's like, just think about those, just rehearse them, like keep thinking about God and these amazing promises that come from these covenants. I think is just so sweet. And I love so many good comments. We can't even get to all of them. They're just way too many wonderful thoughts and words here. But the idea that with Christ, even if the world is going crazy around us, you know, we hold on to him, and we have his strength to be with us. And oh, sweet Cindy, I love you. Each additional covenant that we make strengthens our bond with God. Yes.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
And both of those talks today really emphasize that it is all about our covenants and the binding power that comes from our covenants. And I just actually read the General Conference talk by, I'm not going to remember, but where he talks about the river in Brazil.
Yes.
And
yes.
that, and he's talking about our covenants, right?
Yeah.
Going against, there's a meme out right now that's been going around. I don't know. It's been popping up on my Facebook every day of God telling us to follow the Holy Ghost, and it's the kayak going against stream, and everything is crazy, or it's saying go with the flow, but yet you're going upstream, and
you're getting up 5 a.m. to do covenant, to go work at the temple. You're part of that upstream, Crystal.
Okay, let me just tell you, when I got called to that day, I came home and I told my husband. He goes, "You physically can't do that." And I was like, I know. I was like, I don't know how I'm supposed to do this. And but the temple worker who gave me my setting apart, he didn't know. I didn't talk about any of my illnesses with him. And the first thing he blessed me with was the power to physically be able to serve in the temple. And it was so beautiful. And that is the only day of the week I can get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. If you guys lived with me and saw it right now, I'm on a little bit of caffeine so that I can be awake right now. But it's like one of those things that my body doesn't get up, and I have to have 12 hours of sleep at night. I can't live off of 8 like most people. And so to watch this transformation for this one day a week, to be able to go do that is once again showing the power that God can give you in your life when you dedicate and you consecrate your time to him.
Oh, I love you. You are a walking miracle and a talking miracle, and that is so sweet what you shared. Thank you. And yes, Elder London's talk. Please, you guys listen to that. It was amazing. Well, thank you. We'll be back next Wednesday, same place, same time. Carpe diem, you guys. Have a wonderful day, and we'll get to the temple again.
Yes, get to the temple.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
We'll see you.
Have a great day. Bye.